On the banner there in front of the plants, we've got seeding rates. Chris, I think you're a pretty high seeding rate with Sericea, probably a 25-pound, because it's a pretty big seed. And Sericea is, even though it's very tolerant once it gets growing, it's a very weak seedling. So if you're going to plant it, you really need to kill out what's there or severely suppress it. And you'd be better to do that and have almost a pure stand and then add grass back into it or let grass fill back in over time than try to. It's not going to just drill into clover drill into grass like red clover would do. Okay, we're going to move now into what I would call the highlight of the program, so make sure you stay with us for another hour. Chris, if you could help grab a couple of chairs, another chair. We're going to have our producer panel come up here. And so what we're going to ask them to do is to talk about how they produce quality grass hay. We're going to talk about Timothy hay production, orchard grass hay production, and teff hay production. Then we're going to have an extended time for questions for them and other comments. I've got a few things that I want to add as well. We will record this so we have that for you all to listen to or other people to listen to later on. So we're going to go in the order that's here. Brad, if you wouldn't mind coming up and talk to us about how you produce Timothy hay. Brad's a hay producer and crop farmer in Hart County. Grows several hay products, but we've asked him specifically to talk about how he's producing Timothy hay.
I don't have any slides.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Okay, Brad, thanks.
All right. I'm Brad Hines from Magnolia, Kentucky. I don't have a presentation.
Let me raise your thing up just to hear that.
Last year they just had me answering questions. Y'all can ask any questions you want. No, the Timothy hay, I'm still new to it. Maybe 7 or 8 years ago, I had a friend introduced me to it. You know, he was using it for cover crop after tobacco. We was growing burley tobacco, and we would plant it, and then we was able to square bale it, and then go back with soybeans. But we built a market for it, so we've kind of used it as a pretty good cash crop. It was probably the most profitable hay we had last year. We planted after soybeans, and it was about the third, fourth week of September, and we was able to plant a Clare Timothy, just no-tilled it, about 15 pounds the acre, and was able to cut it about the middle of May and square bale it. And we've got 200 bales the acre off it last year. It was a good year. Now, the previous year we was, I don't know, wasn't as good. 100, 150 bales. It's about like the grass hay you do for the cows. We had a good year last year, but I guess it's kind of like some of the other grass crops. You can get too much nitrogen. I've noticed, like in the fields that's not real square, we would kind of overlap, and it can go down on you. But I don't know. One of my buyers, he once tells me get about 1.5 inches long head, and then start cutting it. But a lot of times it's a little later than that. It grows real fast in the spring, and it'll the bigger those heads get, the more bales it'll make. But it just we actually plant about 5 pounds of orchard grass with it, and it seems to give it more color down at the bottom, because the bottom part of the Timothy won't have much color. But like I say, it's been a good crop for us. It's not real expensive. It actually holds the ground. We got some sandy hills. It holds the ground better than the alfalfa.
So, Ray, go through the specifics with production. You mentioned 15 pounds per acre after the soybeans. Did you give any fertilizer when you planted, and what did you fertilize in the spring with?
Well, a lot of times we'll fertilize before we plant the soybeans. And if we know we're doing Timothy, we'll plant the beans early or use an early maturing soybean, and then we'll just depends on if the field needs to be cleaned up. Sometimes we'll spray a Roundup and maybe another chemical with it, like to clean it up. But some people use gramoxone or something like that to burn it. But then we'll just no-till it, and I don't know, about this time of year we'll add some nitrogen to it. But
So how much nitrogen do you give it?
we're shooting for around 75 pounds. I mean, we do winter wheat too, so in the past I'd went in there when I was doing my winter wheat and we'd gotten too much on it and it would kind of go down on us, so we went to just a one shot around 75 units of nitrogen.
So right when it started to green up a little bit?
Yes.
Before that?
Yeah, just, when you can get on the ground. I have put it too early and you'll see the plant kind of lose color, and we've had to go back with some, but it's better, when it starts greening up. And we can also hit it with some 2,4-D to clean it up, when it starts warming up here in March too, April. So it works good. A lot of people use it to rotate their alfalfa fields so they can spray 2,4-D to clean up the fields.
So you've got a high-value hay crop, and you're breaking that autotoxicity with your alfalfa then?
Yes. And we usually do, we'll usually keep our Timothy about 3 years, and we'll go back with an alfalfa or soybean or whatever.
Clayton told me one time he'll overseed a little Timothy each year. Are you keeping just that single stand you planted for 3 years?
I haven't got much experience doing that. I got some friends that'll add a little bit of Timothy each year. Clayton was talking about he's got some fields that are really steep. He's got some steep ground that he don't like to run his bell wagons on much with the alfalfa production. So the Timothy's mostly just one cutting. So he uses the Timothy on those fields, and he'll add a little bit of, I guess, at second, third year, you add a little more seed.
The way we want to do this is after each one of them talks, there may be some specific questions that you have with Timothy production. Then we'll have them all sit down with just a range of questions related to grass hay production. Any specific question for Brad and what he's doing? Brad, repeat the question after they say it so we record it.
Is Claire the only variety going?
The Claire is not the only variety I've used. We like it. It's been maybe a higher yielding variety, but I have tried to plant some other varieties. The Claire seems to be the earliest maturing. So if you got very much Timothy, you don't want to cut it all at once. So it has worked to use other varieties they'll head out different times. It's kind of like when we was doing tobacco, we didn't want to have to top it all at the same time, but we've used, there's a 10-hole and Climax and some other ones, but like I say, Claire seems to be the earliest maturing, and we can get on it after our first cut in alfalfa, and a lot of times before the second cut in alfalfa.
We've got about 35 Timothys that we tested. It's in the summary report. But then we have a Timothy and bluegrass forage yield. If you want to say what varieties mature earliest or latest, that'll have those kind of details in that. Other specific questions on Timothy?
Have you noticed, do your customers prefer to have the seed head in the Timothy or not?
My experience, if they do not see the Timothy head in the square bell, he was asking, do they prefer to see the seed head? But if they do not see the seed head in the square bell, we have to call it orchard grass. Yeah.
And when you put a little orchard grass into your Timothy, do you call it Timothy or do you call it a mix?
we'll have to call it a mix if we see, both. But mainly, they want to see that Timothy head. It's kind of unique, and of course, they get the orchard grass heads mixed up with fescue, and we don't want any fescue, so that's why we a lot of times plant the late maturing orchard grass. So we won't have any heads. The Timothy will be headed out before the orchard grass. I mentioned one cutting on the Timothy because that's the way it's been going here lately. I don't know, it's several years ago, probably 5 years ago now, we had some really wet years, and we could add a little nitrogen after each cutting, and we had some old tobacco patches where we'd gotten 3 cuttings, but the first cutting will have the heads in it where it's real obvious Timothy, and the other cuttings, it's hard to find that Timothy head, so they'll just want to call it orchard grass. Yeah, that's just I don't know if the orchard grass helps the yield that much, but it makes it softer and more greener. So pretty much the first cutting's Timothy, and after that it's orchard grass.